So today on the Zach and Mac show, we have a very special guest. We have Kat Blackard, a producer for the Nerdy Show, one of the longest running podcasts of its genre. Also a business mogul, starting her company Omniverse in 2019. And then finally, my new favorite. Hopefully it'll be Zach's new favorite soon.
Yeah, he hasn't let me listen yet because I haven't been able to get off work.
The Call of Cthulhu mystery program, which can be listened to on Spotify, the Omniverse, and we should have some links somewheres here.
Literally everywhere you can get podcasts, you can get the Call of
On
Cthulhu
Spotify,
mystery program.
Comment, subscribe, Spotify.
Ring that bell.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Spotify.
Well, Miss Kat Blackard, welcome to the Zach and Mac show. Thank you for taking a little bit of time to be with us today.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Mac. Pleasure to be here.
So we wanted to ask on behalf of our viewers, what exactly is a tabletop audio drama?
Well, folks may have heard of actual play podcasts, and that's where people just play tabletop role playing. And I say just only to mean that, like, simply it can be as easy as you set up a microphone on the table and everyone just plays. But it is, in fact, a genre that has a pretty wide scope and quality, and tabletop audio dramas are kind of at the upper echelon of the audio quality. There's only a few of us out there, and what we aim to do is to take the narrative storytelling of tabletop role playing and strip away all of the parts that just aren't narrative driven, like to basically create and cultivate an audio listening, like, storytelling experience that is purely for the purpose of being listened to in that way. So in the case of my programs, we'll add cinematic sound design and original score and build out this whole fully fleshed out narrative. In some cases, we will add in scenes that didn't take place at the table. If we're like listening to, we're like, oh, we could use some more character development here. We'll punch it up. So the Call of Cthulhu mystery program, my series, is probably the most complicated one out there that does that punching up work. I've been doing tabletop role playing shows since 2009, and in that time, we've evolved from being pure actual play to jazzing it up with sound effects to hiring a composer to do original score. And then eventually that mutated into series 2 of the Call of Cthulhu mystery program, which is thus so far the pinnacle of what we do.
Oh, that's so exciting. Like I said, when I listened to the small snippet before the interview, I'm really excited. Like, it was really good. And that was just them eating chips and talking to one another.
Yeah. We're in the store right now, and I was, had a few customers, and I'm kind of calling around because I need his help. Mac. And I see him in his little headphones, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And he was like, all giddy on his computer. And I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah, I was really excited because you guys have really great chemistry. And you're right, the music score, you had a narrator. It was really something very different from what I'm used to, because usually you're right, it's just a playthrough, and like people are just sitting there playing, and there's no extra production to it.
And no shade to pure actual play, because the energy that happens at the table is authentic and important and pure and beautiful. But I come from a background where, like, screwing around with audio and building on that stuff has always been something that I've been inclined to do. So as soon as I sat down with the material and started playing with it, it was pretty easy to just escalate it over the years until we've gotten to the point that we're at now.
Oh, that's awesome. So for someone who plays tabletop games and things like that, how different is it to prepare for a tabletop audio drama versus preparing for just playing a game?
Well, that's I'm actually doing a presentation on specifically this. The day after this will be released, there's a convention called Podtails, which is the first audio drama specific convention. It happened in Cambridge, Massachusetts last year, and obviously this year it isn't happening anywhere physically, but it is happening online. So if you go to podtails.org, at 5 p.m. I'm doing a presentation about performances for actual plays and improvised audio drama work. And it's very different because, you know, if you're playing a tabletop game, you generally think like, okay, who are the friends who I want to play with? Like, how do I want to interact with them? This isn't too dissimilar, except that everything you're doing has the end goal of this is going to be something that other people are going to listen to. So you have to be able to trust people to be, if you're doing a long campaign, you have to trust them to be consistent. You have to trust people to bring full-scale performances. Like when we perform, I insist that everybody's in character all the time. Like when you're talking to the game master, you're still in character. So there's this kind of blur that happens where you're not getting constantly taken out of it. You can still have technical conversations about like what a dice roll is doing, what the action is, without the audience being like, wait, who's talking now? Because they were a cowboy just a moment ago and now they're not. They're always a cowboy, and that way the characters is even coming out when they're interacting with the game master. It creates that full scale immersion the whole time.
Oh, that's really
So
interesting.
important. And for my part, I cast people. It's actually really difficult because I'm trusting people to do a lot. It's not just that they're lots of like high octane actual play shows will pull in like say actors and comedians, and that's all good and well, but those people for all their talents aren't necessarily good role players, and that can be, you know, pretty tricky. Like I have to do a significant amount of vetting to really like know who somebody is, to be able to be sure that they're going to be able to pull this off. And what's more, because we are a historical fiction audio drama, there's a bunch of other layers to this. If we were doing medieval fantasy, then it would kind of be like, maybe we'd have some rules about like, hey, we're not going to mix sci-fi in this. It is going to be pure fantasy, or like, we're not going to deal with, let's say, magical creatures that are specific to like Wizards of the Coast copyright, something like that. But in this case, it's like, this is the real world in the 1920s. There you have all of like world culture to explore and play with. And we also want to be as accurate as possible. So while we can fix some stuff in post if it goes sideways, we do want to like be, not just be accurate, because that can be a hindrance, but mostly to actually to be able to use that in a meaningful way. Like our show focuses on, you know, H.P. Lovecraft is like a terrible, like racist, misogynist poster child for like the white het cis capitalist patriarchy. And so our show focuses on the other in every sense, like folks who are from minority backgrounds, women, people of color, queer people, people who are differently abled, and explores who they were during that time period. That's not like the specific focus of our show, because the specific focus of our show is being a spooky comedy horror show, but it just so happens that we can take our not modern sensibilities, but our modern perspective to be able to unpack that. A lot of historical research goes into our program specifically to make sure that that's done in a way that is both realistic and then also very honest, and in a lot of cases offers opportunities to view our own modern day world through the lens of people who are not represented in the media of the time at all.
No, that's really inspiring, because like I've always wanted to break the mold of the traditional hobbyist, the traditional gamer. You know,
Yeah.
it's typically white cis male, kind of like socially inept or just crude. No culture, no education, except for the sci-fi or fantasy things that they do, and that's not the case. As in our shop, we've noticed that we have trans people, we have queer people, we have.
I'm not gonna lie. If I could, I thought you were talking about our shop. I'm like, what are you talking about?
No, but like, I'm just saying, like,
I'm
just saying, like, we've been very blessed to have that in our store.
We have all
People
kind
of
of
color,
different people.
and like, it's not your traditional gamer. And I hate that stereotype that gamers are all like that.
I feel like we've cultivated a community more so than just a game shop.
But I love the fact that that's what she's aiming for with her program, is that,
awesome.
You know, that is very important. I really feel that that's extremely important.
And broadly in our experience, though, you know, the stereotype of that kind of gamer is like those are the gatekeepers. Those are the people
Mhm.
who, from like the Simpsons comic book guy stereotype, like
Mhm.
have been the people who decide that this culture is insular and is only for this kind of people. But the
Mhm.
reality is, especially in the 21st century, that that's not even remotely true. And what we kind of need is that like the larger perspectives, like at this point, we need the reality of of diversity in gaming to actually be represented and for that to be reflected, because in a large sense that stereotype is holding a lot of things back while the audience is in fact moving it forward, and yet it persists. The
Mhm.
fact that you have a store that has a diverse audience like that is amazing, but I think also speaks to the heart of what this kind of alternative entertainment is all about.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Um, like there was a small series that we did on our show about how gaming um, was more than just entertainment. It can do things that can either give you peace of mind or give you inspiration. Is educational because what is a board game? A board game is just a lesson wrapped up in the guise of fun.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I remember we wanted to call it like how gaming saved my life.
Yeah.
I think that's what we were calling it.
Have you had any moments in the hobby itself how it maybe has led you on to something, especially like this, with your business?
Yeah, I think that tabletop role playing is a integral tool for building people's capacity to tell stories and develop interpersonal communication with other people. I don't know if the research has been done, but I dare say that you know, like I'm going to make a generalization here, but it's one that I know from experience to be at least partially true. People who are homeschooled are generally pretty socially inept. My partner is homeschooled; she deeply regrets that fact. And uh, but whereas like not being homeschooled puts you in all kinds of different harms and experiences that can effectively like build up your capacity to have interpersonal communications with other human beings, that is really possible at the table in a powerful way, and it builds storytellers. Some of the greatest modern filmmakers all cut their teeth as young people, like at the tabletop in tabletop role playing, and that's a pretty remarkable thing, and it is extremely consistent. Like if you look at the right interviews, and you can see mention of it literally everywhere. So from my experience, I think that it's been really great in that way. Though I was a late bloomer to tabletop. I did not the first. You can listen to my first tabletop game ever, episode 1 of Dungeons and Doritos, this series that I started in 2009. Um, but from there, that was actually like a really important landscape for cultivating things. Like I had a lot of interests, and the being able to create characters and performances surrounding those interests gave a platform for developing pieces of my uh, self that didn't necessarily have a platform in my day-to-day life. For instance, when I started that game, I was assigned male at birth and was presenting as a heterosexual man. And the character who I performed as was a Dragonborn invoker in 4th edition D&D and a female. And that character became a safe space for me to explore femininity in ways that I didn't realize that I was doing. I was just like, no, no, no. Well, like we've got all these like kind of human-esque characters, so I want to be like a weird creature, and like all these other characters are male, so I'll play a female, and it's okay because I can do a hissy voice. So it's just, you know, I can just do this dragon thing, and that's fine. Um, and so I like effectively, not really realizing myself, hid behind that for years. Um, but it was the first time I was female in public, and it felt really good.
That's that's really awesome. Like I'm serious. Like that. Um, I don't mean to be.
Gushy.
It's just that's really beautiful. That's awesome.
That really is
That's really
amazing.
awesome. I'm really like that. I'm sorry.
Man, it's crying.
Yeah.
You need 5, buddy?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
you
good,
good?
bro. I'm good. But no, that was that's what I'm talking about. Like the hobby can do so many really awesome, really powerful things, and it's not just a waste of time or like it's a positive place to put good energy
You're
in.
gonna
I
make me
really
cry. I can't
no,
do
but I'm
this.
serious. Like that's such a really beautiful story, and like
I can tell.
that's a thing. Like, and I that's what I love about the hobby. That's what I really love about, like, especially with the people that we get to interact with every day. You know, you have your Troys, you know, and he's a hardworking guy. Drives in from Mississippi every day
This man's gonna
just
start
to
to
come
think
to
we
the
have a crush
store.
on him.
No, but he's such a great dude, and
He really
he's just
is.
super helpful and like not to be stereotypical, but like you would see a construction guy like that and you wouldn't think that he's such a great marshmallow, you know, and he really genuinely cares about people, like really genuinely cares.
And like
He's
he
a rough
hones,
tough dude,
well, the thing
and
is,
you know,
he also hones a craft of painting and playing D&D,
and he's a
and,
fantastic
like,
painter,
yeah.
you know, and like all these
Shout
wonderful
out
things.
to all those burly
those-
marshmallows. That's a beautiful vibe.
But like I'm just saying, like that's
I'm
a
working
part
on
of
that
the
physique for myself. Burly marshmallow.
you are
I
a
think
bag of
that's-
but no, like that's the thing about that I love about the hobby is like all different walks of life can have that
Yeah.
positive energy flow into something that works, you know, and it's like a beautiful metaphor for things.
I think out of the people who watch this, every single one of them is gonna relate to that experience. Just because,
Exactly.
like the biggest thing that stuck out to me is, you know, the reference of a safe space,
Mhm.
because that's just something that, you know, everyone needs and deserves.
Yeah,
It's a really
absolutely.
big thing. It was for me when I started playing. I mean, you remember me when I was a kid. Yeah, I was 16 when I came here first time.
I've
Wow.
watched.
How long have you two known each other? I'm interviewing you now.
How old are you now?
26.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah.
I've
Amazing.
watched most of the people in this store grow up. I
Amazing.
may have the Daniel-san looks, but it's all Mr. Miyagi. But no, so how did you guys come upon the idea of the Nerdy Show stuff? Like that's a really big production. And
Yeah.
then it led
So
to Cthulhu Mystery Program.
yeah, the Nerdy Show Network was and is okay. So the Nerdy Show Network currently still exists, but in a much diminished capacity because, as far as our in-house productions, we've evolved purely into a storytelling company. So Nerdy Show is focused a lot more around like topical IP-based, news and discussions and stuff. So, but at the time, our flagship podcast, Nerdy Show, was the longest running game and hobbies podcast of all time. And the only thing that really ended that was that Apple removed the game and hobbies conglomerate genre. And so now those things are separate. But we were at it like a long time. We were at it before the Nerdist was a thing.
Suck it,
as
Chad
a
Hardwick.
Oh my
No,
god.
Chris Hardwick.
yeah,
Was it
you
Chris Hardwick? Yeah.
douchebag. Chris Hardwick, yeah, he's a bad
Can't even
person.
remember his name.
You're a bad person, Chris. You're bad.
Yeah.
But we never had any of that Hollywood money. So we were this like scrappy grassroots outfit and just kind of stumbled into it. It started life as a radio show here in Winter Park, Florida, and I think that it sort of already existed, but it just so happened that one night myself and another friend and a person who we didn't know but became a friend all ended up as guests on the show at the same time, and this dynamic developed that just sort of snowballed, and we got invited back the next week because it worked really well, and we kept getting invited back until we ended up like turning into our own podcast, and that led us to all kinds of crazy places. We swung for the fences. We applied to E3 and got in, and did all these like on the floor interviews with game designers and stuff. And I was like, okay, who are creators of media who I want to talk to, and just started going down the list and interviewed Dan Aykroyd and Devo and Weird Al a number of times.
Cool.
And if you if you dare to ask permission, you just might get a yes. and also, are kind and courteous and professional.
Right.
But this is not our intention. This is not our background. This is not what we'd plan to do with our lives. But it started working, and people were into it, and we saw that, even though we were just talking about topical current events nerd stuff, people it wasn't just that they liked us, it was that we developed a community, and our positivity towards the media that we love, because that was always our focus, was just talking about things we love, which wasn't a real calculated effort on our part. It's just what we wanted to do. That seemed to set us apart from everybody else. And then as we were rounding out our first year, we'd been joking for a long time, what if we just did one episode that instead of talking about any news, we just played Dungeons and Dragons? And then we did that, and that was huge within the minuscule scope of our indie podcast outlet. So so we kept doing that. We kept doing all the things. And it grew into this like pretty cool monster. And until the point happened where we were like, but the thing that everybody loves the most is the stuff that is storytelling, which is the stuff that we love doing the most. So that's why Omniverse got founded, and now we are a media production house that specializes in that. So the Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program was originally a Nerdy Show production and has since like transmuted into something else.
That's really awesome. So Zach here is our resident Cthulhu expert.
And I wouldn't say expert. I would not say expert.
Fanboy.
Fanboy's fair.
Lover.
Yeah.
Oh, but when you guys decided to go with the Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program, what was the impetus for that versus, like something sci-fi or something more? I mean, you've done D&D, but like you could still stay in that realm of fantasy and like swords and stuff like that.
Thing.
Yeah.
Because
like not everyone digs Call of Cthulhu like they do now, because now it's trendy and popular. They have a TV show, they have video games, they have all this other stuff. When you guys started this, it was something that was popular amongst a very niche group of people, and then you guys went with it, and it's big. It's so cool now. It's big. So what made you guys go into that? And then of course, Zach, please chime in on some Cthulhu questions, because I don't know anything other than Cthulhu is friends with Cartman, and that's it.
That's dubious information. Well, I've been reading H.P. Lovecraft stories since I was in high school, which to date me is like 1999 to 2003. And that was pretty big for me. Always kind of a spooky kid, and I really enjoyed all of his purple prose and verbosity and the poetic layers of that storytelling and the obscurity of how he painted horror. That was very influential to me as a creator. And then once Nerdy Show came around, like a decade later, that was still before Patreon existed. So we used to do support drives that we kind of rigged out of different like code and website stuff on our website. So every month people would contribute to a different support drive that would have a different theme. And every so often we were feeling extra frisky, we'd be like, we'll do an RPG one shot and it's going to be fully produced like Dungeons and Doritos. What's it going to be? So the first one we ever did was a Paranoia X, and basically people were pitching us systems and then voting on it. So like someone would say, you could give us $1 and say, I want you to do the Mouse Guard tabletop role-playing system. And then it would go up on the board. And someone else could be like, holy shit, that's a great idea. Let's do $20 on that. So now it's a 21. And then, but then anybody could add another system, and anyone could back another system on the list. So those are some of the biggest support drives we ever did. And the first one was Paranoia XP, and the second one was Call of Cthulhu. And then Kickstarter got invented, so it was pretty superfluous after that. It was a whole different world then. So we, I was excited about it. I was like, I hear there's a sanity mechanic, and like when you go crazy, it changes gameplay, and I love Lovecraft, so neat.
It all fits.
And yeah, so then we ran with it, but what happened differently with that is the nature of a Call of Cthulhu session is usually deep into investigation. So it was one of the longest recording sessions we'd ever done, or I think at that point in time it was the longest recording session for a single thing that we'd ever done. And we were like, oh, what do we do with this? How do we release this? Like, we might need to trim it down to like So then eventually I'm listening to the raw audio again, and I'm like, we have to do this as a series. We have to treat this like a detective-y kind of series where we follow all the breadcrumbs and can pace it out so people won't get bored with it. They'll be interested in the twists and turns. And if we're doing that, if we're actually making it that episodic and we're doing all this post-production for it, then we could stage it like a 1930s radio serial and have fake ads and stuff. And that's what we did. And it exploded. It became the biggest thing we'd ever done. So it took a while to organize, but a few years later, we followed it up with like, hey, it's not a one-shot anymore. It's an ongoing thing. And here's more of it. And ongoing asterisk, it is still released in seasons, and they are very hard to make. So it takes some time.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Where can our audience find your show? Spotify.
At CthulhuMystery.com, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Stitcher, basically everywhere that podcasts are available.
I was about to say they can like, spit and hit a podcast company and find it probably.
Also, one last thing that I want to ask you about. I remember speaking to our show producer, Lefty Lucy, and she mentioned that you are one of the foremost experts in the Ghostbusters RPG.
Well, maybe not me personally, but on my staff is an amazing person called Doug Banks, who is the actual foremost expert on the 1980s West End Games Ghostbusters role-playing system. So if you go to gbrpg.com, you will find our homespun resources for that long out-of-print system. And we have updated it significantly because the original game didn't have any equipment from Ghostbusters 2. That film wasn't out yet. And when they expanded the game into Ghostbusters International, the whole dynamic of the game itself changed. So this Ghostbusters game, I want to back up here in case no one's familiar with it. It is the most fun, easy role-playing game experience ever of all time ever. It is absolutely brilliant in its simplicity and is designed in such a way so that it actually kind of generates the comedy of the film. The D6 system has you rolling from a dice pool. It basically invented that mechanic. And one of the dice that you roll every time is a ghost die. So on the, I think it's the 6th spot, there's, I can check actually. Nope, that's not a ghost die. Never mind. There's a ghost symbol. And if that happens, even if you're doing really, really well, even if it's a great roll, something has gone wrong. So it just creates comedy. And better still, because it takes place in modern times, people of all ages can get into this. You could play, and you don't have to invent a character. You can play yourself, who's been hired to be a Ghostbuster in your own town and research your own town's like paranormal history. So we have a series called Ghostbusters Resurrection, where Doug and his team of role players did just that, and it is brilliant. Lots of people consider it to be like in canon with. They respect it so much, and this is such a flattering thing. They respect it so much they consider it to be the same canon as the films and the comic books. So that's
huge, man.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful show, and I am the producer of season 3 and also co-writer of season 3. We also created a lot of resources for people to pick up the game, like. In addition to the ghost die, it also uses cards as equipment loadouts. So you don't like collect or trade them or anything, but you have in front of you a very hot swappable rack of equipment effectively. So you can look at it and read it and see what it does very quickly. The original ones were very of their time, and of course did not have things like slime blowers. So we made our own. We play tested it, and we have free resources available, so you can print your own equipment cards for the game, learn how to play it, see expanded rule sets, and yeah, I'm extremely proud of what we've done with that, and really think that system's amazing. And we'll just boldface say, if any rights holder is interested in reviving this system, you should call me, because we have the tools, we have the talent, and we will bring this game back big time.
Well, we will definitely have
like,
to
comment, subscribe.
we'll definitely have to make sure that we reach out to
yeah.
a couple of the people that we know, and hopefully we can help you. Well, Kat, once again, for me, it has been a supreme honor to have you on the show. Like, your story is 100% what I envision what real gaming hobby should be about. Like, that is a very personal thing for me, and I'm very, very honored to have you talk to us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
We would love to have you back again sometime in the future if we can. Please let us know. We would love to keep up with what you're going. I know I'm definitely gonna start listening to your Cthulhu mystery program, because it was so good, and I only got the intro. I'm like, serious, it was so good.
Oh, there is a big thing happening, which I am very pleased to share now. This is extremely new news.
Ooh.
We've been silent through most of 2020 because this entire pandemic situation has completely upended our lives. Surprise. So we were on schedule to put Series 3 out this year, but that didn't happen. So in an effort to do something special, we've teamed up with Chaosium, the makers of the Call of Cthulhu, to put on a streaming event Friday the 13th, which is upcoming November 13th and 14th, 2 nights of live tabletop role-playing done in the mystery program style with a cast of folks from the role-playing and audio drama world. And it should be pretty fun. We're playing The Cracked and Crooked Manse, which is a campaign from their just-released remastering of Mansions of Madness. And that's going to be at cthulhumystery.com/live. You'll find all the links you need to get there. And it is a charity event. We are going to be contributing to the Transgender Law Center. And we've gamified that whole experience, so people who contribute can help people regain sanity, or maybe even revive a player who has mysteriously died. We're still working out the logistics of how exactly we're going to, like, alter time and space like that, but we'll make it work. And then also, thanks to Chaosium's sponsorship, we viewers have the opportunity to win digital and physical editions of Mansions of Madness.
Oh,
awesome.
wow, that's dope.
intense.
That's so cool. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I gotta get all.
We're gonna watch it.
We are gonna watch it. Oh man. Miss Kat Blackard, once again, from Zach and I here at the Zach and Mac show, thank you so much for being a part of our show. We really, truly appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it was really nice talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'll be back.
Okay, awesome.
Well, once again, guys, as you can see, Miss Blackard has tons of things going on, lots of content. Please go check out all the wonderful links that will be here, and maybe here, and here. But definitely check those things out, and sponsor them on their Patreon. Support this. It's very worthwhile, and it is absolutely everything good about gaming, and I couldn't be more proud of our hobby. So
Patreon.com/Omniverse Media.
there you go.
There we go.